So what are these three points that you were trying to harp on?
And they're not complaints. They're just things I was like crossing my
Oh
fingers. Like
my
it
god.
was more of a wish list. It was more of a wish list. Number one, I was really hoping they were going to bring back Mads Mikkelsen for like one scene in the last episode, but they didn't. That's the guy who plays Galen Erso.
Yeah, I was trying to, when I was sitting there looking off, I was trying to just think where they could fit him in, but
Well, it would have been in a scene with the other person I was hoping we were going to see, which was going to be. I was really hoping we'd get to see a scene with Bodhi Rook. Maybe a scene with Bodhi Rook and Mads Mikkelsen at the Edu flight station. Something like that would have been like just really really cool because I feel like there's a bunch of subtle sentences and like lines in Rogue One about the relationship between Galen Erso um, and Bodhi Rook, and it's like I feel like we still don't have that the context of their relationship because he's doing this. He's like, this is for you,
sure,
Galen,
I
and
I see your point. I think they would have had to introduce that a little earlier though, or maybe even in the first episode where
maybe sure, sure,
Cassian steals the Avenger. Maybe he steals it from the Eju flight station because it is a
yeah,
developmental station. Maybe you
yeah,
do see a young Bodhi Rook just walk by. That's all you really need. Um,
sure.
but I do see your
Or
point.
just see him talking to Galen. I think that would have been like really really cool. But then again, we're talking about bringing people that aren't in the show, so there's a lot of probably contracts. I'm
Right.
sure it was probably pitched in their meeting room because it's like, why not do that? Like you're literally tying the bow on this with everything. You're bringing Melshi for crying out loud. It's like, who the hell knows who Melshi is? Um,
Oh, yeah, he broke
the
out of
third
prison with
thing,
Keith, my
the
boy
the
Keith.
third thing, I it was just more of a wish list. This was just like, and I still don't know if we're ever gonna get it because it's like we have a year now in the timeline for it to happen, and there's an event in the Star Wars history I've been wondering about. Like, how does this happen? When does this happen? I know when it happens now because we got a year in between. When does Saw Gerrera lose his legs? And how does he lose his legs?
He
So
didn't
we
have
see
them
him
in the
in
last.
the last episode. He did not have them because it was Rogue One.
Yeah.
The episode before that, he
I'm
had,
gonna go ahead and say.
or not the episode before that, the three episodes before that, he still had his legs.
I'm gonna go ahead and say some sort of rhydonium thing. Either someone was smoking a cigarette, put it out while he was huffing rhydonium, or just like, diabetes, but just some sort of. Why are
You
you
think that's why
laughing?
he's huffing? You think that's why he's huffing all the Rhydonium because he has diabetes? Bro,
Maybe.
that's gonna be the saddest thing in Star Wars. Like all these characters are losing limbs from lightsabers, explosions, Saw Gerrera, diabetes. Like,
No, like maybe it's something to do with the rhydonium in his blood, and
makes him diabetic.
no, like a doctor's like, hey man, like we gotta cut your legs off if you want to keep doing this shit. Either you quit the rhydonium or we gotta take off two limbs. And he's like, off at the knees.
No, there's no. Again, it's just something. Ever since I saw Rogue One, it was like, oh, I wonder how he
Ray
lost his
Rock,
legs.
Ray
Because
Rock says he probably lost them in battle. I would go with the rhydonium. He was addicted to that stuff.
at this point, it's diabetes for me. But um, no, it's just something I was always wondering, and it's like we see him in Rebels, he has legs. We see him in Andor season one, he's got legs, and it's like we're getting really close to Rogue One, he still has his legs, and I'm like, all right, these things have to come off soon. Like, we're almost there, and then all of a sudden they're just off, and I was like, oh, we don't even get to see how it happens. Okay,
I
well,
didn't need to see how they happened, but
no, I don't either.
I'm
It's just something
sure
I
there's
thought we would
probably a book about it. There's so many. Do you like this era?
be more specific.
Like this era. I saw someone name it exactly, but
Of
it's
Disney, of Star Wars, of the
in.
United States,
Hey,
of the
this
pod.
this podcast focuses solely in universe. You know that. In universe, in the Star Wars timeline, you've got your old Republic, you've got
Yeah,
your High Republic, you've
yeah,
got your Republic, you've got your
yeah,
Dawn of the
Don't say it.
Empire. You've got your Rebellion in the Senate. Do you like this era right here where it's like in between episode 3 and 4?
Yes, I do.
Is this your favorite era? I think this is my favorite era because you also have to remember, like,
Okay, canon-wise, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, my answer is always going to be the Old Republic is my favorite era because that's just a bottomless pit.
right.
That's just a bottomless pit. It's not fair. Is this my favorite era in universe?
Professor Egger says if space whales can travel through hyperspace exist in the Star Wars universe, surely space diabetes does too.
Sure, I'm all for it.
I'm with you though. Canon.
I think this is my favorite because, and not to get political or religious on your pod, but I'm going to anyways. I've always viewed in between episode 3 and episode 4 as like, you just got done reading the Old Testament and now you're reading the New Testament. And it's really interesting to see characters. The reason why this period is probably my favorite is because you get to see characters from the prequels transition into something different, or you get to see characters and environments and everything gets flipped on its head. And you get to see how everything either survives, dies, or adapts to the Empire and kind of like everything that's new. So I think it's kind of cool because you really do kind of get a completely different evolution of almost every character, because everyone has like their own path from 3 to 4 if they make that, if they survive. But it's like that huge gray area of just like turning the page has always been really cool, because it's like you just don't know what you're gonna see, and you get really cool characters like Dedra.
What I always love, and by the way, shout out to Steve, welcome in, pal. What I always love is whenever they show the Empire, it's like, wow, these guys were literally in the Republic. These guys were part of the Republic.
Yeah, why do they have to make the Empire look like they're like the bad guys? I don't like how
because they are the bad guys. If your reign is purely, you said it yourself. What do they indoctrinate upon people for control? Fear. You don't do that if you're not the bad guy. You don't see good guys instilling fear unless you're LeBron James. But he only does it to his opponents.
Good guys instill fear.
Yeah, and their opponents.
Never. The rebels were doing some shady stuff to each other.
Never to the people that are fighting for. Like Cassian Andor. We'll take Luthen, for example.
Yeah.
Take Luthen. He's literally fighting in the Empire.
Oh, yeah.
And he sees this girl. They have orders to slaughter this village. Yet, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? Does he try and...
We don't know if they're slaughtering a village.
Are you kidding me?
Dude,
are you kidding me?
They were at the drive-in. They were watching an Order 66 documentary.
No shot.
The guy came in and was like, hey, do you need more popcorn? And he's like, I'm good. Leave me alone. We don't know if they're slaughtering a village.
They slaughtered everybody.
And props to the Empire for letting her onto their rig.
You must have been in public relations for some shady freaking people.
I was in public relations for shady people. You know that.
That's crazy, man.
You know that about me.
You were like this for like a solid minute. And props to the Empire for letting her on the rig. That's nuts, man. That is nuts. Outrageous statement. How do you feel about Brasso?
I liked him.
You look a lot like Brasso,
So my shoulders are broad?
I think you could rock the...
Mexican.
Correct.
I'm not Mexican.
You could rock the beard, though. Absolutely.
Probably could.